Anyone can do what I did. And if you do, you too can have a profitable side business within 24 hours. People spend years trying to build a company and make it profitable. I tried many times myself and failed many times until I found a formula that didn't. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly how I built Roasted.io in a single evening, the unique approach I took towards building Roasted, and how much it costs me, as well as how much it makes. Then I'll cover some tools that I use to build it, so that maybe you can use them as well and validate your own ideas. And lastly, I'll go through some inspirational ideas that maybe you can use to start building your own side gigs. So how is it actually possible to build something that makes money in one night? Let's start with how I did it. Now, don't get me wrong, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to build my own startups in the past that have just completely failed. And then you have to realize one day that it doesn't work. And it can be a little disheartening. Like, you come out the other side and you feel like you've learned nothing. But I'll save that for another video. So around a year ago, I got a text from a friend who sent me a link to their landing page, their startup. And I'd seen this exact landing page in different variations a million times. I have 10 years in user experience and interface design. So I've seen this exact startup a whole bunch. It had been launched for a while and he wasn't seeing any paying customers come through the door. The usual story, difficult to get off the ground, had been pouring money into it and just wasn't getting the conversions that he would have liked. I mean, he was pretty convinced that this landing page was the greatest thing on the internet and he just needed a few more weeks to clean it up, as if it was only a matter of time before a bunch of subscriptions came pouring in. And so I texted him back saying, good luck. And then it hit me. I mean, this was a friend of mine, so before wasting his hard-earned money to bootstrap something that was likely going to fail, in my opinion, he needed to hear the truth. And that was when the idea really hit me. I mean, I'm a product designer for a living and have been doing it for over 10 years. So I texted him back saying, pay me and I'll roast your landing page, because he needed to hear the truth. And that way we could keep it transactional so that there was no hard feelings in the end. I didn't care how much the payment was. Any amount would have been fine. I just didn't want those hard feelings there. And after a while, he got back to me with a payment receipt. So the chains were unshackled and I just let loose on his landing page. I was roasting everything that you can imagine. The text, imagery, the user experience, just everything. All of the countless hours that he'd put in, and I was just reducing it to dust. So I then sent back over the brutal feedback and just waited. And the next day, if you fast forward 24 hours, he responded saying, done. He'd implemented all of the feedback that I had critiqued or roasted. He'd pretty much stayed up all night making the changes that I had suggested. And when I saw it, I was actually pretty impressed. From feedback to implementation, it was less than 24 hours. This was just for a friend. So in the process, I realized I'd accidentally validated my startup, which is pretty cool. So I put my phone down and straight away opened up Framer, which is a web design tool. And I'll go into that in a little bit. I knew that I could use Framer to rapidly build a website and then hook up Stripe payment links on the page so that I could quickly get something up and running. I'd whipped up the landing page for Roasted.io in a couple of hours and then spent another couple of hours cleaning it up because it was a bit janky. And then I just posted it on Product Hunt for fun. It got some traction. Within the first few hours, I got my first paying customer. Years of what felt like an unbreakable curse and pouring money into a bottomless pit of ideas and different variations of startups was finally broken. And the most important part was that I was sinking money into them left, right, and center. It was brutal. So it's been over a year since I launched now, and my friend got his first paying customer, which is great, and many more. And Roasted has a nice inflow of customers, which is also pretty cool. So what Roasted.io essentially is a website critiquing service. And it's got a little bit of a twist because it's brutal feedback that people can't really get from family and friends and even colleagues at times. So essential for getting to the core of some of the problems that these landing pages and products and websites and even apps have. I'll break it down for you. So here's what a roast looks like. Someone sends me a link to their website and I pretty much start by taking a screenshot of their page and then importing it into Figma. And like I said, because I have over 10 years experience as a designer, I can then brutally roast each and every inch of their site. And I do this by using comments, and they can see exactly what I'm referring to in the context that I'm referring to it in. If they upgraded, I also create a document in Notion, deep diving into my feedback and comments into a more sort of digestible, linear fashion for people who would rather read a document than scroll through a Figma file. By the way, I'll get into why I think the whole thing kind of works towards the end of the video, because I really think the psychology of it is quite interesting and could be useful for you too. All right, so maybe you want to do this yourself. Let's discuss some of the costs and the tooling that I use. So I charge $159 for the cheapest option, which is where you'll just get a bunch of Figma comments. $199 for the mid-tier, which is the Figma comments and the Notion feedback in an analysis format. Also added a more premium package now, which is $349, and that's including video feedback too for your website. But my prices have changed over time. I mean, I started by doing a roast for $69. I've done a ton of free roasts for people as well, and even experimented with adding some different product ideas. I tried roasting the user experience of different pages as separate products. I even considered like roasting people's startup ideas, which had a sale or two here and there, but didn't take off at all. I quickly realized that I needed to scale back because my core customer base was no longer buying the packages that I'd initially created, and that was a problem. So after it became too convoluted, I went back to basics, back to the roasting of the landing pages and websites and keeping it simple. This thing of testing, by the way, is critical when it comes to validating your ideas and startups, and I'd highly recommend doing it for anyone, whether that's A/B testing, discussing it with friends, getting a roast. I just suggest that you test out your ideas in a tangible way, not really just looking at it yourself. I mean, get a second opinion from somewhere. So on average, I get around 4 to 5 customers a month, and for my better months, I've made over $2,000 for what is essentially between an hour or two of work per client, and depending on the package that they bought, which, considering I essentially get paid to swear at people and their websites and also work on some pretty cool stuff in the meantime as well, doing things that I love, it's a good gig. So some of the tools that I use to build Roasted.io include Framer, which is a no-code or low-code website builder, which costs around $15 a month. Zapier, which is a workflow automation tool, which I use to hook up my Stripe payments to trigger emails, and that costs around $20 a month. Notion, which of course is a rich text editor, which you can get for free. And then you have Stripe, which is the payment processor, and the fees are up to 2% per transaction, so not too much. You have Figma, which is for designers generally, but I use it for comments on the web pages, and that's around $12 a month. Then you have Rewardful, so anyone who refers a customer through this referral link will get between $80 and $175 per customer that they refer successfully, and I'll include that down in the description. So if you do want to send someone my way and get paid for it, you can, and that's $49 a month, so that's quite expensive. I wouldn't recommend everyone to use that initially. I think maybe when you've got some traction, you can start using these types of tools, referrals and things like that. To begin with, I don't think it's necessary. And lastly, the domain name, which cost me around $15 a year, and I got that from Hover. So excluding Stripe fees, that adds up to $97.25 a month, which is pretty good. I mean, considering that I've 20x that in a month before, I'd say I'm happy with that return. If it's alongside a 9-to-5 or something like that, if you're freelancing and for a side hustle, you can't really ask for more. So let's talk some ideas that maybe you can get started with so that you can build your own side hustle in 24 hours and start making some money. So I'm not going to feed you the usual stuff of like drop shipping businesses or print on demand or something like that. I mean, there's a million other YouTubers that are kind of going into this stuff, and I don't think it's really worth it. So the first one that I'd say is, if you have a specific niche that you've already trained in or that you're good at, I'd suggest that maybe exploring some ideas in these fields to begin with. Let's say you're a developer, for example. Is it in a specific field or niche that maybe gives you an edge over some of the other people who are trying to do something similar to you? If so, could you do a course on it? I think creating a course now is easier than ever. You've got tools like ChatGPT, which can help you write most of the curriculum, if not all of it. Not that I'd recommend that. You can use your expertise to build out the curriculum alongside ChatGPT with the help of it. I mean, you've got all this potential at your fingertips, and it's just about utilizing it in the right way in order to produce something which people find useful. So courses are also a great way to get that passive income. I mean, if you are creating a business, you ideally want to create it around things that don't require you to be there at all times. Of course, you can have cohorts and things like that, but not having to be there 24/7, or at least automating some of the more laborious, tedious things around your business will be super essential to you when it comes to running the business and peace of mind and just having more free time to do other things. The next idea is templates. If you're a designer or developer or content writer, or if you're into AI, there's a bunch of things that you can start to do right now to build out some templates. I've heard of stories where people have built Canva templates and made millions. Same with Framer, although it's a lot newer, so they haven't made as much. There's also Excel template creators, Notion, Figma, any type of software that people are using which allows for the creation and selling of templates, or the education of processes around how to use that software can be so useful for people. It just saves them time. I mean, you can even see with AI that not everybody wants to even type in a few lines of text to create a prompt. They would rather get the secrets or the prompts from people and pay a fee. So that could be an idea too. Maybe the future will just be secrets. Everybody will be selling secrets to each other. They'll just replace money. And if none of those ideas really work for you, let's say you're not even in those fields, another excellent way to validate ideas is by going to your ChatGPT history and seeing the sidebar and viewing the themes of the problems that you've personally had and then trying to solve for them. And maybe you'll be able to create a startup around some of those ideas. I've got to give credit to my brother for this one. He put me onto this idea of ChatGPT history. I think it's a super cool idea. So highly recommend you check it out. And lastly, I know that we're talking again about AI, but there's so many different ways that you can utilize it now. And some of these ideas, you can even start thinking further ahead. So with Sora, for example, how will this insane video creation tool be utilized? Well, you can generate almost any video that you want on demand. That's going to open up a whole world of use cases for people to start messing around with. Why does Roasted actually work? I mean, I took an idea which was normally pretty formal. I mean, it's consultancy for website critiquing. And normally you charge thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in this kind of area to give feedback on products and websites. And I flipped it on its head. It can normally be quite pretentious, getting this type of feedback in a PowerPoint. It's always pretty watered down as well. And people just aren't a fan of not hearing the truth whilst they're losing money. So in my experience, they prefer to get a raw, quicker insight into what's going on with their website, how does it work well, what's going wrong with it, and the added element of comedy, which I provide in the roasts, helps to sort of resonate with people when they're hearing this bad news about their websites. It helps to lighten the tone. So I'd love to hear some stuff that you're building too. And if you like, I can help you out with some templates down in the comment section. And also, if you do need a roast, let me know. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.